This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast.
There's one more thing. A terrible presence is in there with her. So much rage, so much betrayal. I've never sensed anything like it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. I'm Alan Katz. As always, before we venture forth into the unknown together, if you enjoy this podcast enough to hit any available like button, please do it. Think of it as feeding the algorithms that feed you the stuff you like. For instance, this podcast. And if you really like us, please consider putting us in your friends' lives by sharing us with them. Then you'll be a hero in everyone's eyes. Better yet, no one will haunt you. Which brings us to this episode of the podcast and the fact that there's something paranormal going on here. I tackled the paranormal more than a few times in Tales from the Crypt and the Outer Limits and various other TV and movie projects. But I never went at it from the perspective of my guest, paranormal investigator Kyle Yates. Though a skeptic by nature, and despite coming to paranormal investigation as a kind of second career, as you'll hear, he may well have been born to it. To be honest, I'm a little agnostic about things paranormal. I want everything rooted in what we can verifiably know. Alas, we don't verifiably know everything. Consciousness, for instance, remains mostly a mystery to us. As you'll hear, an awful lot of what we think is paranormal is absolutely explainable by organic means. Electricity and the magnetism electricity produces can create effects that do seem genuinely ghostly. But those ghostly effects are just electricity and magnetism, or something else with a simple logical explanation. But then stuff happens that can't be explained at all. You start running out of, well, it could be this or it could be that sound like they maybe could be. And that's where people like Kyle step in and explain it paranormally. Let's start at the very beginning.
Now, the very beginning.
The very beginning. Now, at some point, we're gonna get you all the way into paranormal investigation. You grew up in Texas?
That I did. A little place called Baytown.
Your family is from Texas, going way back?
Well, actually, my grandfather's from Nebraska. Everybody else is from Texas.
So a lot of Texas, and like I said, Texas going way back.
Mm-hmm.
How far back? Do you know?
I think my grandfather moved here maybe the 30s or 40s. So we've been here a while.
Okay, but not going back. Your folks weren't at the Alamo.
No, not my dad's side, yes, but my mom's side, no.
Okay, but your dad's side goes back to historical Texas. Republic of Texas.
That's right.
So your roots are rooted to a degree in Texas, but also in Nebraska, you said.
Yes. I haven't been to Nebraska yet. I'm planning on going one day just to say I was there.
You don't feel as connected to Nebraska as you do seem connected to Texas.
I am a Texas boy, let me tell you. Do you know what Baytown is known for?
You're about to tell me.
Yes, this is the birthplace of Gary Busey.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nope.
Holy cow. I've worked with his son.
Really? Jake?
Yeah, I've worked with Jake. He did an episode of Tales from the Crypt. Interesting cat comes from an interesting family.
Yes.
Talented.
You know, they filmed RoboCop 2 here. The first Hitcher movie with Rutger Hauer. And most famously, they filmed the Hellfighters with John Wayne here.
Huh. What is attractive, having never been to that part of Texas? What's cinematic about it?
Well, this part of Texas where I was born and raised, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it.
Huh.
And when I got remarried, we moved up to Austin, and I loved Austin. Now, not so much inside of Austin, but the surrounding areas, because the nature, it's so beautiful. And I mean, the culture around there is awesome. Plus, I'm a big UT fan. And yeah, it was kind of cool getting to go to my first Longhorns game. But man, it is so nice up there. And if it hadn't been for my mom getting sick and my wife folks getting sick, we probably would have never came back here.
Hmm. And your Baytown is between Houston and the coast.
It Yes, yes.
Not
Kind
just
of about the midway point between Houston and Beaumont.
what is you're on the bay, you're not on the water. It's what is, aside from being an occasional movie location, what else is Baytown known for?
Oh, let's see. Exxon is here.
Huh. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Trying to think what else we're known for. Renee Zellweger went to the elementary school right down the street from us for the fourth grade.
Okay. Okay. So people come from Texas and they
That's
go
right.
places, damn it.
One of my friends ended up in the NFL, played for the Colts and played for the Dallas Cowboys,
Excellent.
but he went to the rival college, Texas A&M, but
Bastard.
I'll let him slide.
What did you study when you were coming up?
Oh, art. I
What kind?
wanted to do nothing but art. And, you get married, you have kids, and
Well,
mm,
let's go back to the art. Let's go back to your passion. Let's start there. All right. So, what kind of art did you love? What kind of art did you want? If life had worked out the way it should have, what
you
kind
know,
of
quite
art would you be doing now?
quite honestly, when I first started drawing, I wanted to be a comic book artist.
Huh,
Really, really bad.
huh.
And then I got into painting and got into more abstract, and I love doing abstracts. I still try to draw and paint. It's a little more difficult for me. I think I told you when we met the first time, I have a spinal disease, and it's breaking down the bones in my spine, and it's
Yeah,
messed up my nerves, and my hands shake a lot, and it's hard to like grip a pencil
yeah,
or
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
paintbrush. But and I love whittling, and
But in your head, you are an abstract artist.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
No, no, no. That's really the things that if you could create them, this is what you would create.
definitely.
Are there abstract artists that you would emulate, not necessarily in your work, but you look at their work and you think, ah, that's it, chef's
You
kiss.
know, I would say the closest would maybe be Dolly.
Huh?
Um,
A little surreal.
Little surreal stuff, that kind of stuff, and
Cool.
I really liked those artists from the '60s and '70s, the underground guys. Crumb. I liked his artwork.
Sure,
Trying to
sure.
think of, oh my gosh, brain fart, the guy that did all the Rat Fink stuff.
I'm not that knowledgeable about comic book art, so I'm useless as titties on a bull here.
Well, those guys that used to do artwork for like Heavy Metal magazine and those
Sure, sure, sure.
more
Yeah, 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 yeah.
underground stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know the neighborhood you're talking about.
Yeah, the flying eyeballs and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Life as it does had you zigging and zagging away from what you wanted to do. What did you end up doing instead?
I ended up working for the water department. Worked in the water department for 20 some odd years, ended up being a supervisor for my last 13,
Hmm.
and that's where I retired from.
And what did you do with the water department?
Oh, repairs, we'd put in new water lines, we did the taps, putting in new meters, I tested water, fire hydrants,
So you were out on
everything.
a crew.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cool, cool.
Oh yeah. I loved it. I was a heavy equipment operator for many years, and that was it was like I was in another world when I was on a backhoe or
Uh,
track hoe or something like that, and I could escape.
Doing that kind of job, your knowledge and understanding and view of the city is quite different from most of the people who live in it.
Most
Your
definitely.
your whole understanding of the city is quite different from virtually everybody else's.
Oh yeah. And I've had a gun pulled on me twice.
Ay,
For
ay,
one guy, he wouldn't pay his water bill. And every time they'd go put a lock on it, he would go out and cut the lock. And then we decided we were just going to pull the whole meter. And when we went out there to do that, he threatened to shoot us. And then the cops had to come out and escort us to do our work. And then another guy, the water line ran through his backyard and he didn't want us to go back there and fix it, even though he had water gushing all over the place in his backyard.
what? How many tons of cocaine was he that were sitting in his backyard?
It makes you wonder.
Yeah, dude, there's something I don't know suspicious about that kind of behavior. Yeah, never mind the fact that I'm bleeding to death. Ignore the drugs.
Oh gosh. It would be a whole nother show to tell you some of the stories working on water lines and being out working in the middle of the night. I had
Oh,
actually had a cop pull me over while I was out working, and I was driving the backhoe back and forth, and he came out and stopped me and he says, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, I'm working on a water line. I'm in the water department." He goes, "Water department closes at 5 o'clock." And I'm like, dude, we work 24 hours a day. If there's a water leak, we have to work on it.
kind of like cops.
Right. Oh,
Ay,
yeah.
ay, ay. All right. So you had a successful career doing a job that you enjoyed.
Hmm.
And somehow along the way, you also found time to be a paranormal investigator.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I've been married twice. My first wife, I have to go way back to tell the story. Is that okay?
Oh, hey, go wherever the story needs to go to get told.
Okay. 36 years old. That was the early part of the 2000s. That's when Ghost Hunters was real popular on TV, and I never missed an episode. I said, one day I am going to be a paranormal investigator and I am going to investigate with the guys from Ghost Hunters. I said I was going to do that. Well, about 36, I said, I ended up having a heart attack, and my first wife, while I was in the hospital, was
At the age of 36?
yes, I had a real bad drinking problem, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had a bit of a substance problem at the time. And while I was in the hospital recovering, my first wife was moving out to live with a guy who was barely older than our daughter. And so I ended up getting a divorce, never, needless to say.
Needless
And
to say. Wow. Wow.
so nearly what, 8, 10 years go by, and I'm I've been dating here or there. and I got on one of those dating sites, and it hadn't worked out for me. And I said, I'm gonna give this one more try. If it doesn't work out this time, I'm done with that stuff. Well, I met this young lady. We hit it off pretty good. We talked on the phone for probably, I don't know, a month. Finally decided we were going to meet. The night we were going to meet, she calls me and says, "Hey, had an emergency. I'm not going to be able to go out on our date." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm figuring she's flaked on me too, right? Well, she's texting me all night. And I'm thinking, wow, this is kind of weird. She flaked out on me, but she's still texting me. So I finally kind of got the nerve to say, "Hey, if you couldn't go out with me tonight, how are you still texting me?" Then about 10 minutes of silence. I thought, uh-oh, I done blew it now. I poked my nose where it didn't belong. And she comes back. She says, "I've got to tell you something, and you might as well know. I am a paranormal investigator, and I am on an investigation that was kind of an emergency. There was a kid with Downs that was getting attacked, and we felt like we really needed to go take care of this." My next text was, "Marry me now."
Had you had
So
any experience in paranormal, anything up to that point?
nothing, nothing. I had several experiences, but I had never been on an investigation. And well, her group actually had an opening, and they invited me to go along. I went and I paid attention to what they were doing. I tried to emulate a little bit what I saw on television, but I didn't want to make it a carbon copy because. And they liked me, so they said, "Hey, come join the team," and I did, and that's another story. But we ended
What?
up leaving that group.
Well, well, we may find our way into that story because this is now the meat of the matter. Having
Well,
having made movies about this topic, okay, okay. Uh, you're you've actually been in that room where you weren't making it up.
right,
I
right,
I
right.
I'm going to assume you weren't making it up.
No, no, I
Okay,
wasn't
okay.
making it up.
She tells you what it is she does. You say, "Marry me." Now,
Right.
you have no experience of this. As she, all right, she can't just throw you into the deep end of this pool, I assume. So she's got to bring you along to bring you up to speed. How does she? How does she pop your cherry to get to start you rolling here?
They showed me the equipment they had and how to use it and how they did their investigations and
How did they
uh,
explain? All right, how did she and her team? All right, paranormal investigations. All right, what does that mean?
well, first off, we get to the location, and we had a guy on the team who he is a whiz when it comes to looking up properties and getting the history of it and what have you. And so we've got this information in hand. We come up with a game plan, like where we're going to set up cameras and where
But
we're going to set up our
let's
other
go back a
equipment.
step.
Mhm.
Let's go back. You haven't even got the job. What is it? All right. What is the company's? What is it that you tell people that you do? Yeah, yeah, okay. Paranormal investigation. What does that mean in in
Well,
in a promotional brochure term?
well, if you're having unexplained occurrences in your home that you think you're being haunted by a ghost, we come in, we try to find out if there is a rational explanation for what's going on. Sometimes it's exposed wiring and you have high EMF, that kind of thing, and that can affect some people's brains.
EMF,
Yeah, that uh, oh my gosh, now you put me on the spot.
I'm guessing a
Electromagnetic
magnetic.
force, right?
Gotcha. Okay,
or
so
field, electromagnetic
magnetic
field. I'm
field.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. No worries. I just want to make sure that we understand everything that you're saying.
Right. And I mean, there's explanations for some things, but we also set up certain equipment that uh we can we have those equipment that can see in the dark, that kind of stuff. And we have special recording devices that may pick up what do you call it? Unembodied voices and that
Hmm.
kind of thing. And we go over the evidence to see if it's an actual haunting or if it's something that can naturally be explained. And fortunate for me, there were people on that team who were very willing to teach me all about the equipment, how to use it, how to do these kind of things. And
What is the equipment? What are the various pieces of equipment measuring?
oh, we have like, well, the digital recorder, of course, it picks up any kind of voices that may be there. We have the EMF device that can pick up where the electricity is actually like at its highest uh, measurements. I've found a lot of exposed wiring sometimes doing that. I should have been an inspector. Oh,
So is sometimes the
I,
cause of what people feel like is a haunting is actually just a perfectly explainable uh,
oh yeah.
event caused by the wiring, I guess, old wiring in their
Oh
house.
yeah. Oh yeah. We had one that this wiring.
Hmm.
Do you remember when they used that old like a cloth covering over wiring, copper wiring?
Sure, oh
You
sure,
remember
oh sure,
that?
sure. Oh God, yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
was a house we went to that the up in the attic. There was a lot of that, and some of it was totally exposed, and they actually had wrapped wire around that wire to put up lights and stuff in the attic. And
Oh,
they had a transformer that was literally over their backyard, probably feet from the bedroom window, that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
you,
And
you could tell.
the truth is, electricity and the magnetism around it that can have some very unusual effects on the real world,
Oh, definitely.
and can very much create the appearance of ghostly and phantasmagorical things happening because and it is a very natural force causing things, yeah, causing objects to move.
Oh, yeah. And when you do enough investigations, I'll tell you, a lot of them are very boring. They're not what you see on television. A lot of it's sitting around for hours, basically staring off into the dark. And I explained away more stuff to where I was starting to begin to be more skeptical myself. And so I was that guy on the team, like, nah, that's not real. And every once in a while, I'd get that one piece of evidence that I could say, I have no explanation for this whatsoever.
What was the first time that,
Ooh.
okay, you went from, no, I can explain this, I can explain that, that I cannot explain?
There is a house in Spring, Texas, which is just north of Houston. And we got there, the house is empty, but the people were, I believe they were trying to sell the home, and they were talking about all these things that happened in this house. So, hey, we're going to check it out, see what's going on. Now, from my understanding, some of the folks had already been there and investigated and said, hey, yeah, we've noticed stuff that we couldn't explain. I'm like, yeah, I bet I can figure it out. Well, at one point, me and one of the male guys on the team, we went upstairs by ourselves, and we were going to sit in this room with the camera and with a digital recorder and just see if we could get something to happen. And while I'm sitting there, my feet feel like they are on fire. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I take care of my feet. I don't think I got athlete's feet or something, but I'm and I love going barefoot. Let me tell you, I love going barefoot. I hate shoes. But I'm sitting up there, my feet are on fire. Can't figure out what's going on. And I'll get to how this is significant in a moment. But we felt like something was in the room. So I got up and I kind of walked around, but I couldn't notice anything. Well, later on, we went downstairs and the girls were just like, "Hey, did anything happen while you're up there?" And I go, really nothing. I said, "No, I felt like my feet were burning, but other than that, nothing." And they started giggling. And I'm like, "What's so funny?" And they said, "We told the entity that we believe is here to go up and tickle your feet." I'm like, "What?" Okay. Well, then they have the video of while we were up in that room, while we were there, there is a little light that followed me around that room while I was walking around and then it flew off. Okay, well you might think it's a bug or something like that, but one of the girls had her phone out and was videoing the TV so she could capture that video and put it on her Facebook real quick, right? And we were playing it back on her phone. While we're playing it back, when you see that thing follow me around the room, you hear a voice, and it's none of us. This voice says, "That was me." And I do have that recording, by the way.
A voice said that was me.
Hmm. Maybe it doesn't sound so great telling you about it. When
Oh
you
no,
see
no,
it,
no.
you'll be blown away.
It it's a haunting scene, and there's nothing. You were there, and you're a skeptical person, and as you said, that was the first time you went, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
this is kind of crazy.
all right. So, how did you explain it to yourself?
I kept telling myself that that had to be a bug flying around the room, but I couldn't figure out where is this voice coming from.
And you heard the
And
voice. You heard the voice distinctly.
oh, distinctly. And I mean, I was there when she was recording with her phone, and no one in the room was talking. We were being quiet while this was going on. Now, there was a little, somebody had been giggling or something at one point, and you catch that, but no one was talking when you this voice said that was me. Well, we end up spending the night there, and me and I guess I can say his name, Rodney, we were up in this one room and we were sleeping there, and the girls were sleeping on another part of the house. We decided we were going to leave the digital recorder going all night. And when I was listening to the playback, there was one point where it sounded like somebody was having sex right there in the room. And it wasn't me and Rodney, I'll tell you that.
Huh.
I have no idea where that came from. And the girls are down the hall, so it's not them. What the hell? And I didn't sleep that night.
Just out of curiosity, so what? This is a house, a single family residence
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
in a
they
neighborhood, or is separated from other houses
no,
by.
it's in a neighborhood.
All right, so a
And
lot of other houses nearby.
oh yeah, there's plenty of houses nearby, but it's not like they're right on top of each other.
Not
So
so you could hear a voice in one house that would be coming from another house.
somebody would have to be screaming for you to hear the person next door.
Yes,
Right?
I guess that would have struck you slightly differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So you get your first taste of the real deal.
Oh yeah. Now, another interesting one, there was oh my gosh, what's the name of that town? It'll probably strike me at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm not trying to think about it. But
No, no worries.
there's a hospital that used to be run by nuns, and they had a lot of children in this hospital, and it had been investigated by shows like Ghost Adventurers and this kind of thing, and we decided, hey, well, let's go check it out. And at one point, I got scratched, and I actually had a scar where I got scratched, and I'd I'd felt like something had touched me.
And then, wouldn't you know it, something utterly paranormal went down. We lost Kyle's video. It just went out.
What happened?
No worries. I lost you. I lost your video, I've got your sound, so that's okay.
What's going on?
No worries.
That's
Your video link is
I'm I'm pushing the button and nothing's happening. What's going on? Why is it saying it can't detect my camera?
it's and that was quite sudden, wasn't it?
Whoa. I'm not
That's
even touching the computer, dude.
that's kind of freaky, Kyle. I'm just saying because you're in the middle of talking there, telling another story about a paranormal situation, and suddenly uh, one could speculate that someone from that side is fucking with you. How else to explain that really suddenly, for no clear reason, your video went out?
I can't explain this.
Now, fortunately, being a podcast, hey, I've got your voice and I've got a lovely picture of you. You're a very handsome man, Kyle.
Thank you. May have to keep going like this. I can't figure out what's going on with my
Then
camera, dude.
we always think we have the technology, but fuck if the technology doesn't have us right where it wants us. This other occult experience where you felt touched and this was on your back,
No, it was on my stomach.
on your stomach. So you felt something. Would you describe it like a finger poke, like
It
a
was
fingernail, like
I don't remember the exact feeling. All I know is after that happened, I had a pain that I went to three different doctors for, and they couldn't figure out why. And all they want to do is give me pain pills. And I'm like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on because I can't live with this pain. But we went back and looked at a photo that we took in front of this hospital, and you could see what looked like a hand touching my stomach. I thought it was the light. Everybody else thinks it's a hand.
did the pain eventually go away?
This is the funny thing about it. We have a friend who is a psychic, and I was telling her what happened, and she said, "Let me do a reading on you." She said, "Look, there was a child there in a wheelchair, and or he looked at you as if you were a father figure and wanted to go home with you and attached himself to you." Okay, well, I'm another one of these. It's like, I don't know about the psychic stuff, she's a friend, but what have you. Okay. And she told me, she says, now look, go talk to Rodney. Now, Rodney, he is kind of like a demonologist, and he has this ability that he can expel evil things. And she says, go talk to him. The moment you speak to him, the pain will go away. So I'm like, okay, I'm game. I called Rodney and I said, hey, man, this is what's going on. And as soon as he spoke, the pain went away and it never came back.
It's another fascinating story. Suddenly, it's as if you became aware of something that you simply hadn't been aware of before. Obviously, it's not like you became aware of these things started happening, but these things seem to be drawn toward you.
It seems like it. Uh, I was told that I have abilities. Now, everyone has abilities to a certain degree, but I used to hear a voice in my ear from time to time. And I just took it as it was my mind playing tricks on me. But apparently, I have an ability to hear spirits. I still think it's BS, but that's what I've been told.
Is it a voice or
It's
different
just,
voices?
it will be a voice, but it'll be something very quick. It's not like I hear someone having a complete
Huh,
conversation.
understood.
It's just
Is
here.
it whenever this voice occurs, is it the same voice?
No, it's always something different.
So different. So each and every time this a different voice. It's like a quick hit, words, a phrase.
It'll be a word, and I'm one that if it's catching me off guard, I'm not going to catch what it's saying right off the bat. I'm always like, "Hey, can you repeat yourself?" That kind of person,
And are they good enough to repeat themselves?
Never happens.
Damn,
Never happens.
bastards.
Exactly.
What kind of words have you heard?
Well, I've heard my name, like somebody's calling me when I can discern what's being said. Sometimes, most of the time, I'll be honest, I'm like, I didn't get that, but
So it's more the impression of a voice.
yeah, and I still think there's got to be something with the mind. I don't know.
Well, all right. I am skeptical, like you, but I'm also willing to accept that there are things that we cannot see and hear. Hey, we only see visible light. There are lots of other light spectra that we cannot see, X-ray, ultraviolet. We can't see them. Lots of things that we frequencies, our hearing frequency, human ear is not all that good. There's all kinds of sound that we can't hear. Um, I we don't really know how you and I are having this conversation. I mean, even if we were sitting in the same room, how does consciousness work? We
Right.
have we have not a clue. Not a clue. Where do our memories reside when we're not experiencing them?
In the cloud.
I'm willing to accept that consciousness is a kind of natural force, electromagnetic in nature and biochemical in nature. Consciousness could well have a transcendent component that we cannot see, that we can experience, but we don't have the original equipment to experience it fully in this particular body form. Some people can train themselves to be more aware of consciousness and things outside our own heads, that whatever way you can connect your head to them. Okay, I'll, when two people experience the same thought and the same idea, I've experienced, the creative collaborative process on numerous occasions where it's the damnedest thing when two people begin thinking the same thought.
Right. I have to tell you one more thing about that hospital.
Please.
Okay, so at one point in the evening, everybody had pretty much decided that they were going to go to bed and we were going to spend the night in the hospital. And Michelle, my wife, her and I decided, and this is before we got married, by the way, so she's still my girlfriend. We decided we were going to stay up just a little bit longer just to check the place out some more because we were hyped up, wasn't ready to go to bed. And we went by this one room. It was a playroom, And we had passed by this room, I don't know how many times. We decided we're going to go back in there, see what's going on. And there's a bunch of toys and things in there. There were two dolls, those little dolls that say, Mama, Dada, I
Mm-hmm.
love you, that kind of thing. They haven't said a thing all night. And all of a sudden, this thing says, Mama, I love you. Okay. Maybe it's one of those things that you wave your hand in front of it or there's a motion and it'll go off, right? And couldn't get it to work. But we'd start asking questions and this thing would go off. Like, okay, I'm a little curious. What is going on here? So we went and woke the other folks up and said, hey, something's going on down there. So they all came down. And there was a guy that he was pretty much their tech guy. He decides he's going to take these dolls apart and see what makes them work. Mind you, both of these dolls are talking to us. One of them had batteries and the other one didn't. So, how's this thing talking without batteries? Well, I'm going, okay, this is kind of cool. I took one of our detectors and I put it on top of a rocking horse. And I said, hey, if you're in here and you're playing, why don't you come sit on this rocking horse? And within seconds of saying that, that meter went off like crazy. And we didn't get a whole lot that night, mind you. All of a sudden, here's this activity going off. Well, we we messed around in there for a while, and it was just some crazy stuff. We got ready to leave, and we decided, hey, let's take a picture of this hallway, just for prosperity's sake. Went back to look at the picture later on, and you could see the silhouette of what looked like a woman in a nurse's outfit and several children standing right next to her. Have no explanation, dude.
Hmm.
I don't have a clue.
How do you, all right, as you visit these environments with the intention of spending some time there, including overnight, how do you prep yourself to sleep in a place that's, oh, for one of a better word, it's fucking creepy?
I don't know, man. I've never been that person that was scared of the dark or anything, so it doesn't bug me. And besides, I figure I don't have to be faster than
But
any
but you're surrounded
monsters,
but you're surrounded by things that go bump in the night, going bump in the night.
right? Well, I say I don't have to be faster than whatever creature might be there. I just got to be faster than everybody else that's in the room. So,
To get out of there first. Have you? Has there ever been a situation where everyone got okay? That's it. I'm out of here.
no, no, I don't think there's ever been a time that anybody just said this is too wild. Now, I have gone to places where like my wife, she's an intuitive and she's like refused to go into a place because she says there's something evil in there and you really don't have any business messing with it, and she just wouldn't go in the first place. But I'm the dumb butt who's gonna go in there and get a get attacked probably.
So it seems.
Right. We actually me and Rodney went and did an investigation. We ended up doing it by ourselves because nobody would go with us. And we found out later on that they had been doing some um, rituals there. So that we probably shouldn't have gone in there. Nothing happened to me, but still,
I I I don't mind. Excuse me if this sounds disrespectful, but is this a paying gig?
oh no, this is just
Okay.
because you love to do it.
So this is a crew of people who are doing it entirely for love. Where do you publish the results? Where do you put the results so that other people can see what you're doing? Does this
Well,
happen?
when I was on their team, we had a Facebook page, and that's usually where the evidence went. They would put stuff on there sometimes that I was in disagreement on, but it wasn't my group, so I couldn't say anything. And
Uh,
people would reach out to us from that page and say, "Hey, I think I have something here," and so you'd have somebody that go to investigate, talk, ask questions, and see if it's something legit or somebody just thinks that we got a TV crew with us and they're going to be on television, and you do get those, but
I'm just saying this podcaster to podcaster. That sounds like a podcast.
well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I loved it a lot. And we ended up leaving that first team. We went to another team, didn't work out. Went to another team, it didn't work out. And Michelle and I are like, look, we have enough experience between us. Let's just start our own team. We kind of picked some people away from that first team, but it worked out really nice. And I loved it, but it just wasn't enough. So I decided, hey, you know what? I want to try my hand at podcasting. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought, hey, why not give it a try? And I just started reaching out not only to other teams, but I saw these guys on television doing it. I thought, hey, let me get some of their advice and pick their brains. I would find their email or I would reach out to them on social media, and I was surprised how many actually got back with me. And as the years went on and was getting better and better at it, and word was kind of getting around that, hey, this guy's a little different than who we normally talk to, uh, give him a try. And before I knew it, I was making friends with these guys. And
Was
I,
when did you make Into the Pit? That series of
oh,
videos.
that was, when was that? I want to say it was close to what, 8 years ago?
Huh.
I
Pre-pandemic.
right. It was just before all that started. And before I get into that, I got to tell you what ended up happening with me and Michelle. Uh, we finally decided that we were going to get married and we were going to have a really special honeymoon. We went to the Ohio State Reformatory, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
No.
they filmed Shawshank Redemption there.
Oh, excellent. Oh, what a great location.
Oh, it was friggin' awesome, dude. And we get there, and who did we investigate with but the guys from the Ghost Hunters TV show, who I said one day I was going to investigate with them. And that was kind of where I got my foot in the door with those folks. And I say I ended up getting a lot of them to come on the show and just started reaching out to all of them. And some of them would hook me up with them. And it's been pretty awesome, an awesome ride.
What do most people not understand about people who do what you do?
One, I think they think we're just nuts because we're going to look for this stuff and try to chase it down. But I think a lot of folks they have experienced things and they just want to know that they're not the only ones and that they're not crazy. Because some folks won't even come out and talk to somebody unless they hear that, oh, you're into that kind of stuff. Because they
Hmm.
don't want people to think that they're cuckoo.
Sure. Understandable. It feels a little vulnerable. I'm sure you've experienced something that you can't explain and yeah. Into the Pit.
Hmm.
That was a YouTube series you did about paranormal investigations of other paranormal investigators.
Yes, it actually started out, I was on Spreaker, so it was completely just audio. And I didn't start doing the video until several years later. Uh, Wow, that was a pretty cool thing how I got started doing the video portion of it. I I used to work part-time at this place called the HEB Center. It's up in Cedar Park, Texas, and they had basketball games, hockey games, conventions, all that kind of cool stuff there. They had a convention where you had some comic book people and television people there. And did you ever watch the Highlander series on television?
Not much, but
Okay, well, the star of that show was a guy named Adrian Paul.
oh, sure,
And
sure, sure.
when I was on my break, I decided, hey, I want to go talk to this guy. And that was the beginning of when I first started having my back problems. And so I was telling him, hey, this, he wanted to know why was I out there doing my job, but I was using a cane. And I was telling him, hey, look, this is what I got. And he goes, hey, man, let me uh, turn you on to some like some herbal stuff and some other things you can do to take care of arthritis and what have you. Because I mean, the guy's been hurt I don't know how many times, and he's had to recover. And while we're talking, I'm like, how do you not ask somebody like this to be on your show? But he's not paranormal, so what do I do? And
Yeah, you break format occasionally.
I broke format. But
There you go.
he was so awesome. He was so helpful. And I thought, wow, this could be a show all in, or a whole nother podcast in itself. And so I decided to do my vibes show. It started out as listen to the vibes. I thought I wanted to do something a little out of the ordinary. And I got people that helped out with health tips and mental health tips, uh, entrepreneurship. Before I knew it, I was having actors on the show, a lot of authors on the show.
What is the full name of your very, very good podcast, Kyle?
Well, I shortened it to just vibes. I thought I'd just go simple with it. But the original name of the show was Listen to the Vibes.
And where can people find the
Ooh,
vibes?
I am on YouTube. I am on Odyssey, on Rumble, and on Buzzsprout. And I love Buzzsprout because Buzzsprout is a launching pad that sends it out to Apple, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, just about anywhere that you can listen to a podcast.
Are they your host?
They are, yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, so what's the name of your host?
It's Buzzsprout.
Buzzsprout. Oh yeah, Buzzsprout's a very 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 good host. I use Acast for a lot of my for all my podcasts these days. But yeah, no, it's hey, that's the nature of the beast. You got to have your podcast, your hosting app because that is your distributor.
Oh yeah, they're really good. You put your information in once, and that's it. Then all
Yeah,
you got to do
yeah.
is upload, and it sends it to everywhere.
At the end of the day, you landed. You're in podcasting now. You are a podcaster. Do you think of yourself as a podcaster?
Sometimes I do when I'm trying to impress my friends, but I'm just a guy who has found something that he enjoys to do, and I like helping other people. And if I could bring someone on that can inspire or help in any way, then I've done something.
Having been a guest on your podcast and having listened to episodes of your podcast, I would agree you've done something.
And I meet so many wonderful people, and I've made so many wonderful friends doing this.
That is absolutely I yes, meeting all the people like yourself that this experience has introduced into my life. Wow. It's like the sprinkles on top of the sprinkles on top of the sprinkles on top of the icing on a great cake.
Oh man, to say the least. There were people that I used to lay in my bedroom and listen to on the radio or on that record that I just bought, that I got to talk to them via Zoom. And
You had a
bef-
conversation with them. You had a
I had a
meaningful
conversation.
conversation with them. You
Mhm.
exchanged, yeah, you had time together here in in reality. That's what a wonderful thing that this afforded you the chance to experience. That's amazing.
And how many of us watch Cheech and Chong movies?
Well, hey, well, hey,
I love those movies. And I actually had Tommy Chong on my show. And I mean, we didn't exchange phone numbers or anything, but the guy was so nice that he ended up sending me a picture that he autographed for me. That it meant something because it came from him, and we had a great conversation. I learned stuff about him I never knew before. And that's something else I like to do. I like to do more than just the same 10 questions that you always get in an interview. I want to go a little beyond that and get a little more personal as far as they will go and talk about things they normally don't get to talk about.
hmm.
Did you know the guy smoked weed?
I'd heard rumors to that effect.
I got to learn about his childhood and some of the crazy things he did growing up. And it's so nice that you get to get something out of them that they normally wouldn't talk about when they're doing a regular radio interview or magazine interview. And sometimes you get lucky and you make friends.
It's the podcasting medium is intimate by its nature because people listen mostly with headphones or earbuds or even inside their car, which is just a giant sound pod. But
Mm-hmm.
they're really taking our voices and our stories inside their heads and they're putting us into the most personal space they have. I I love I love being there, but I also respect the fact that there's awesome responsibility. If
Mm-hmm.
someone is going to put you inside their head, you cannot betray that confidence or that relationship. So you they put you there because they want something from your voice, from your storytelling, from the stories that you tell. And hopefully that's why they keep coming back or coming back to visit.
Oh, I got to meet Rudy Sarzo.
Oh, excellent.
And Rudy ended up being one of the most wonderful people that I've ever met in my life. And when we got to talking, and I told him, I said, "Look, man, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, let me know. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I want to get to know you." And I mean, how many times can you answer what's it like playing with Ozzy and what's it like playing with Whitesnake and what's it like playing with Quiet Riot, you know? And, what was your first base and how long have you been playing? The same questions over and over again. Well,
There are ways to ask different, if not better, questions.
right.
Just by doing a little research.
Well, we ended up talking about how him and his family had migrated here from Cuba and the things that they had to go through to become citizens of the United States and how much he loves America. And I didn't know the guy was a religious guy. And we even talked about God. And, if I needed a prayer, I could get a hold of him right now and he would pray with me. And he came to Houston with Quiet Riot. And I'm like, "Hey man, I heard you're in town." He goes, "Yeah, why don't you come down and see me? And I'll leave your name at the door." And I got to sit right next to the stage. And I walk in, he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And the the bouncer, what have you, he's like, "Who are you, dude?" I'm like, "I'm nobody."
You know, even anyone getting into podcasting looking to get rich is out of their minds. It's not
Right.
impossible. You can, but it's everything else that is the payoff
Oh yeah.
by a long shot. It's everything. It's all the other stuff. That's the enrichment part. And if you look for that if you look to that as what's going to make you rich, you will find yourself drenched in wealth.
And it gives you a confidence that you may not have had before. You know, when I first did this, I sweated like you wouldn't believe and was so nervous. And I had to write everything down, and I would wait for that pause to ask the next question. And now I don't need a piece of paper in front of me. I just pay attention to who I'm talking to, and we take the conversation wherever it's going to go.
Mm.
And I've approached people that I would have never approached before. Uh, I got to, uh, I met this guy named Billy James, and to the music world, everybody knows him as Aunt B. He played with the Mothers of Invention at one time,
Wow, wow.
and I saw him on a documentary about Frank Zappa. He had written a book about them, and I was like, dude, I want him on my show.
You're a big
I
Zappa fan. You are a big
oh
Zappa fan.
love Frank Zappa. So I did a little research. I found his email. I sent him an email. I was like, look, I saw you in this documentary. I'd love to have you come on and talk about your book. 'Cause I love Zappa. And so he sends me an email back. He says, look, I don't have the equipment right now, and I'm kind of busy. But he says, I run a PR firm, and I represent all these different musical artists. Would you mind having them on your show so they could talk about their music? And I'm like, sure. And I'm thinking, up and coming guys, people you may or may not have heard of that might play at a local bar or whatever and trying to break out. One of the first interviews that he sent me was Kevin Godley from 10cc and Godley and Cream.
Godly and Cream. Wow.
And I was stupefied when he got on. I'm thinking, I, I loved 10cc growing up, and
Yeah.
he was so awesome to talk to. And I could not believe that I'm sitting here talking to him and people like him. Neil Smith, the drummer from Alice Cooper. Um, let's see, I had, oh gosh, he's going to kill me because I forgot his name. Oh, Derek Moore. Played with a band called Nectar, and Jeff Cotton, who was the original guitar player for Captain Beefheart, and we ended up being pretty close friends, which set me on top of the moon, believe it or not. And it's nice when some of these guys they take my number and they will call me or text me and say, "Hey, man, I got some new music coming out. Can I come back on the show?" Well, of course you can. Jeez.
Hell yeah. Oh, didn't you see the open door, dude?
And
Yeah, podcasting. I consider yes, I consider myself a podcaster, and a proud podcaster because and I look at you're a podcaster. I mean, look at the people who come on your podcast. That makes you a podcaster. There's
I had
it's
this
a
guy named Alan Katz come on my show, and I was like,
yeah,
"What?"
exactly. It's a community. It's the most wonderful community I've ever been part of.
Oh, and then when you get that guy who does a show like you do, and they say, "Man, I like your vibe. Why don't you come on my show?" Well, hell yeah!
And here we are.
And here we are, and
I
hopefully somebody will listen to this.
well, I figure about on my side about 1,000 people on average a week, but actually then my numbers are going up, and I'm actually for the first time since I started this podcast, I'm I'm advertising it. I'm beginning to tell people, hey, we exist. So Yeah, I think a couple of folks will listen to this. I cannot thank you enough for coming and doing this. And I thank you for having me on your podcast. I thank you for coming on my podcast. Let's continue this conversation because I think we just scratched the surface of the paranormal investigations.
Oh my gosh. You know, I still love it, but I don't do it as often.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sure not, but I'm sure there are stories yet to be
oh my
told.
oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
that is you have to come back and those are fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So I want to have you back for another round of some of the of your paranormal experiences. Will you do that?
Oh, I'd love to.
You the
Maybe I'll
man.
bring Michelle along with me.
That would be awesome. I think. Yeah, please, please, please. So hey, it's going to be a date. So hey, keep listening, everybody. There's more incredible paranormal stuff coming up in the future. You don't want to miss it. And thank you as always for listening, and thank you, Kyle, for sitting in.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you next time, everybody. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jody Webster, and Jason Jody, along with Mando, are all the hosts of the fun and informative Dads from the Crypt podcast, followed up for what my old pal the Crypt Keeper would have called terrific Crypt content.